dig right in here. The topic of the day is 19 ways to put AR on autopilot and get paid faster. This is part one. We're breaking the 19 ways down so we can spend a little more time on each of the tips and suggestions that we have. So part one, we're going to focus on automating workflow and processes. Okay. This is just kind of a highlight of how we've broken this down in the three-part webinar series. So again, today, workflow processes, we're going to look at the value proposition for automation. We're going to look at the whole workflow process itself, talk about automating account assignment, collection tax creation, task prioritization, task assignment, customer self-service and payments online. And then if you join us in July on the 19th, we're going to focus on some customer communication topics, ways we can automate things there. And then we're going to wrap it all up with reports and alerts, kind of automating your business intelligence. And that'll be in August. So let's start with the value proposition. Many of you joined before might have seen this slide. How important is your accounts receivable? AR is typically the largest or second largest asset for most businesses. Some companies don't realize that. Other companies do. Typically if you're a distributor, you might think it might be your fleet or your warehouse or your equipment within the warehouse. And that certainly may be true, but your number two asset is probably your AR. If you're a professional service firm, you probably think your number one asset is maybe your employees, and certainly that might be true as well. But your AR is probably number two. So why is it important? Because we really don't do much to maintain or to manage our AR properly. And that affects our ability to increase our cash flow. Another value proposition here. So we have two charts here. These are from let's see, this PayStream Advisors, this study they did just a couple of years ago. And what PayStream found was the companies using a traditional collections model, traditional meaning spreadsheets, aging reports, highlighters, really very manual, are spending a lot of time, 15% of their time, prioritizing and preparing for calls, leaving them about 20% of their time to actually solicit customers for payment. And then they spend 40% of their time managing disputes, and then about 10% of their time actually analyzing what's happened. Now, in an automated system, with a solution like Anytime Collect, or there's others out on the market, I've kind of highlighted two areas here. Your prioritization and your preparation are automated, so you spend literally 12% combined compared to 30%. You're also spending a whole lot less time on remediation or dispute management, which frees you up to spend 62% of your time on collection calls. And that's what we want. We don't want to be stuck doing all these mundane tasks with technology to gain efficiencies. So we can spend a lot more time building relationships with our customers, talking about open issues, getting them resolved, and moving on so we can get paid. A couple of statistics here. Most companies on average are getting paid in about 61 days. And you're probably saying to yourself, that doesn't sound too bad. I wish I could get paid in 61 days. But the next number here is a little startling. They're paying us in 61 days on average net 28 terms. That's not good. So we're saying you have, on average, 28, probably net 30 terms with our company, but it's taking you twice as long, Mr. Customer, to pay us. Why don't we just change our terms to net 60? Because then we're afraid they're going to probably pay us in 90 days, right? The value proposition here is pretty significant. Most companies, this is a PayStream statistic here at the bottom, most companies that are implementing systems like ours are reducing their day sales outstanding by about 10 to 20%. So that averages out to about a 9-day improvement in getting paid. And who wouldn't want to get their cash 9 days faster? To be honest with you, we're seeing improvements 20% plus. We had one customer that was able to reduce their DSO, which is a fancy word for how fast my customer's paying me, They were able to reduce it by 40% and get paid almost a month faster, which is pretty significant. So just some other benefits of getting paid faster. It increases our cash flow, gives us access to working capital that we need to grow our business, lowers credit risk, decreases bad debt write-offs, and it lowers fees that are related to third-party collections or maybe legal. Also reduces our financing costs. If we don't have cash, we have to go out and borrow money, and there's a financing charge associated with that. Also improves our borrowing position. If you have healthy financials, you are a better candidate for a loan if you want to go out and borrow money again to grow your business. So these are just some of the benefits. There are a lot more, but I just wanted to highlight a few of them here. Another benefit to automated accounts receivable, think about this for a minute. So most businesses are writing off about 4% of the receivables every year. Again, you may be saying, yeah, that's not too bad. Let's put it in perspective. I'm a $10 million business. 4% of my AR is $400,000 that I'm writing off. With automated AR, you're going to get an absolute minimum improvement, my opinion, of 10%. That's $40,000 you're going to save every year. That's extremely achievable just by using automation to stay on top of AR. And the main reason here is because we're managing our accounts receivable. We're not waiting for customers to go late. We're sending them reminders. You know, a couple days after they're late, the system is telling us you need to call these people. They're high credit risk, and they have a large past due balance. So we're leveraging the technology to keep us on top of the areas that really require our focus. Now, $40,000, you might be thinking, yeah, that's not too much money to save. That goes directly to the bottom line. If you're working in an industry where you have razor-thin margins, you have to sell a lot of product or a lot of services to make up for $40,000. And if you're the owner and you're on the call today, take that $40,000, give your employees bonuses, lower your product costs a little bit, make you more competitive in the market, or take that $40,000 and go buy yourself a new car and go on vacation or get your wife a ring or something. I mean, that's a lot of money. You could hire more staff. There's so much you could do with that $40,000. Now think about this. If you're a $100 million company, that's $400,000. And we all know what we could do with that kind of money. All right, number 2, workflow processes. Let's start talking about automating these. So what does our current AR workflow look like today? Over on the left, I've got some different steps that you may take. You know, these are going to vary depending on the business, but you know, typically you're going to create or print that invoice, right? It still needs to be done. You're then going to mail those invoices, which requires you to, fold them, stuff them in envelopes, apply the postage, drop them off at the post office. You're doing the same thing not only for your invoices, but you're doing them for statements. Then, getting back to that slide we looked at earlier, now your customers aren't paying you, so you got to figure out, all right, who do I need to call? Who's the first one I'm going to call? And oh, by the way, now I'm going to call XYZ company. Where's all the information? I got to go back in. I got to look at the invoices. I got to look at my inbox to figure out that they email me. I've got to look all kinds of places for all kinds of information. If I'm working in a team environment, I may need to get some of that information from other people that might have made a call or have information that I don't have. And I'm wasting a ton of time with that. The next thing I'm going to do is actually make a phone call, find out where's my payment. Why aren't you guys paying me on time? Now, above that, I didn't put it in here, but if you have a dispute, you got to manage that dispute again, escalate things, and there's all kinds of things you got to do in that process. And I'm basically sitting there waiting for the payment, right? Because I'm not able to take the payment over the phone when I'm talking to them. The last step here is I got paid. So that can take a long time in there, and it's a lot of steps, a lot of manual steps. The green steps are what are common for manual versus automated processes. The black are what we eliminate, okay? Over on the left is automation. We create and print the invoice or statement, and those are then automatically emailed or emailed to fax out to our customers, automatically uploaded to our customer portal. We don't have to worry about prioritizing and preparing for the calls because the system, as I'll show you in a little bit, is going to create the calls for me. It's going to prioritize them. It's going to assign them to me. I simply go in, make the calls, and within a few mouse clicks, I literally have everything I need to make the call. And then instead of having to wait for the payment, my customers can give me a verbal credit card on the phone. I can process that payment right there, or I may not even need to do anything. The system emails them. They click a hyperlink, go to a customer portal, review all the information themselves, and make a payment online via ACH or credit card. So I don't have to wait for the payment anymore. I just get paid. So hopefully you see that there's a huge cost savings here, both in respect to dollars saved as well as time saved. These are a few of the things that we can do with AR automation, and I kind of divided these into two categories. On the fully automated side, these are things the system can do unattended once set up. So I want a statement to go out to my customers, 30-day statement via email every 30 days. Boom, set it up, done. Invoices coming due. Nobody sends reminders to their customers. Why? Because we're overworked. We have no time. We have customers that have disputes. They're past due. They owe us a ton of money. We're illegal, whatever it happens to be. Let the system do it. System can email everybody. You have an invoice coming due in 3 days or 5 days. This is the invoice. Click this link to pay your bill online. Boom, done. New customer welcomes, right? If there's going to be a problem with an invoice, it's probably the first time that you bill the customer. They're set up wrong. You sent the invoice to the wrong person, the wrong location. You're missing the PO number on the invoice, and they have a policy they won't pay without it. They're tax exempt. You charge them tax. Wrong freight rate. I mean, there's a million things that can go wrong that first time. As a best practice, use the system to do that for you. It's going to send them a welcome email, maybe explain your credit policies, credit terms, ask them if they had any problems with your product or service, if they had any questions on the invoice, and if they have any reason why they wouldn't be able to remit payment on time. The system can also schedule a follow-up phone call for you on those first-time invoices. Just introduce yourself as their account manager, their credit representative, whatever titles you guys use. And again, kind of extend your customer service, build that relationship, let them know that net 30 means net 30, not pay us when you feel like it, and find out if there are any problems that would cause a delay in payment. The other things that we can fully automate, past due notices, hey, you're late, collection and dunning letters, and we can do this in multiple phases, so you can have a light version that says, hey, starting to get a little late here, let us know what's going on, or hey, we're really starting to get concerned, these are the steps that are going to happen if we don't get a payment, or hey, we're sending Mario and Bruno over to shake you down because you're really late right now. So you can decide what kinds of messaging you want to have and phase those all out. We can automate things like on hold. Your account is now on hold because of a past due issue. Please contact us to resolve it. We can send notices of intent for legal action, notice of intent for reporting the business to a credit bureau, notice of intent for turning them over to third-party collections, and we can fully automate the escalation to senior management. Again, these are just some examples. There's a lot of other things we can do as well. On the partially automated side, we can automate some things around credit reports and credit scoring, automate the creation of credit reviews, then you have to go and perform them, requests for credit limits and credit term changes, collection call creation, collection call notes and documentation, call scripts, legal demand letters, credit bureau reporting, the handoff to third-party collection, and the escalation. These are all things that are going to be partially automated, but there may still be an element of that you need to insert yourself into. I just wanted to give you kind of a sneak peek into one of the parts of the software. It's kind of the brains behind our application. And this is what we call a credit class and credit class processes or definitions. And you can see over here that in the action alerts we have different sequences. These are all the things that the system is going to do for us. New customer first invoice is going to create an activity or send an email. Statement, 30-day statement. New invoice created, it's going to be able to deliver that invoice to the customer automatically, or at least deliver them an email with a hyperlink so they can view that invoice in the online portal. And then past dues, past due 1 to 10 days, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 45, or more than 45 days. These are all configurable parameters, by the way, so if you want to change these up, add some different steps, you have different things you want to automate, this is where they would fall in. One point here is that customers belong to different credit classes, so you can have a different process for different types of customers, something a lot of our accounts like to take advantage of. This is an example of kind of the detail behind one of these actions on the definitions that we're setting up for the workflow. You can see that we're defining the parameters for this. We are attaching this to an email template so you can customize email templates. We can also have this related to a report. And a report is nothing more than a mail merge document, so maybe I want to send them a past due notice in a letter format. Maybe I want to send them a statement, open invoice report, past due notice, what have you. Is it active? Is it auto close, meaning if we synchronize the data in from the accounting system, we generate the rules, and maybe it's telling me I need to manually send an email or turn them over to collections, something I wouldn't necessarily automate and have happen automatically. Next day, they pay their bill in full. It's going to automatically close that issue that was created for us. Okay. And then this is also where we handle the escalations. We'll talk about escalations later, but you can put parameters around maybe anything over a certain number of days old or over a certain amount past due. We can have it overrided to a different user within the system, maybe the CFO or controller even. Let's talk a little bit about account assignment. So today, most small businesses aren't worried about account assignment, right? You have one person, part-time AR clerk, they're managing the whole portfolio. But as you grow, you get a little bit larger. You might have 2 or 3 people working with different accounts. Our application, and many of them out on the market today, allow you to do account assignment based on parameters. Couple points here I just wanted to highlight. Typically, you're going to have about 1 full-time employee managing your AR per about $10 million in revenue. That's based on statistics that we've calculated from our customers. Certain industries you're going to require more. Really depends on the nature of what you're doing. I'll give you an example there. Transportation and logistics, you have a lot of invoice disputes around freight invoices. A lot of things go wrong there. I'm not sure exactly why, but they do. And that number is probably more like 2 to 3 full-time employees for every 10 million in revenue. You get other industries, you can manage a larger portfolio with a lot smaller staff. I don't care how small you are. You might only be $1 million company and have a part-time AR clerk. You always should have a backup to that person. What if they leave? What if they're on vacation? What if they get sick? Always have somebody that knows how to do what they're doing and understands the process. And the other thing is, if you have the ability, if you have a larger staff, let's leverage the Pareto principle. And for those of you not familiar with that, the Pareto principle states that 80% of your revenue probably comes from 20% of your customers. So why should we spend our effort equally across all of our customers? Now, let's focus on the 20% of our customers that represent 80% of our revenue and probably 80% of our past dues, 80% of our disputes. We can really narrow in and focus on them. We can do account assignment just to that group. And then everybody else is going to be handled with the automation, and then we're going to get alerts and notifications that tell us, oh, of that other 80%, these are the ones that you truly need to step in and pay attention to, right? It's more of a management by exception. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the webinar series. Assigned roles and responsibilities. It's critical that everybody understands what they are supposed to do, what they have the authority to do, and when it falls outside of that, where to go next. Give you an example. I'm a part-time AR clerk. I'm calling my customers. You're past due. Can I take a payment? No, I have a problem. I want to talk to somebody in customer service. Time for me to escalate. Or I'm going bankrupt. Can I make a partial payment and call it done? Well, not my job as an AR clerk to be able to do that. I probably need to escalate that. Could be I'm struggling right now. Can you put us on a payment plan? Or, hey, I'm doing great. I'll pay the bill, but I want to increase my credit limit or change my credit terms. That might not be part of my responsibility as an AR clerk. To be able to escalate things to different people so that the right people in the organization are making those decisions. And then shared information is another concern here and something that can happen with automation. We can do this via inquiry users that have access to view what's happening in the system, or alerts that are just triggered to go out via email to keep everybody notified that, hey, we got a payment, or these are our top delinquent customers, these are the people that have broken promises, these are the ones we sent to legal, whatever you want to set up for different alerts to go out. And this is a little bit on what the screen looks like for account assignment. You can use really any of the data from your accounting system or data from within our application to define how customers are assigned to different users. The example I have on the screen here, I've got Mr. Art Vandelay. I'm a big Seinfeld fan, so I use him a lot. And for Art Vandelay, he's going to manage any of the customers that are associated with my E2B company ID, again, going back to my ERP or accounting system. But he's only going to work with companies that have a total past due balance that's greater than $10,000. So Art's very strategic. He's good at negotiating. He has the authority. That's his pool of customers that he's going to work on. Now, there's literally dozens of different fields that we can apply filters on. We can do it by territory. We can do it for different sales reps. We can do it by product lines, categories, you name it. So use your wildest imagination on how you might want to break things up. We can probably support that within the application. Let's talk about task creation a little bit. What are the benefits? So you come in the morning, what are you doing today? Well, I don't know. Look at my email, I guess, figure out if somebody emailed me back, maybe break out my old printed aging report and see where I left off on my phone calls the day before. Maybe go check to see if we had any payments that have been received, right? You know, it's a lot of manual and a lot of guessing on what do I need to do. Not with automation. With automation, we come in, the system generates an auto sync, pulls in new refreshed data, creates and updates tasks for us, and we know exactly what we need to do, when we need to do it, and why we need to do it. I'll show you that here in a second. It's completely updated. This data synchronization happens automatically once scheduled. For most systems, there are some versions of QuickBooks you have to do a manual sync, but everything else, for the most part, we can automate. So I'll go out to your ERP or accounting system every day, every hour, however you set it up, and pull in updated information. Again, the auto close, it told me to make the call. I didn't get to it yesterday. I log in today. They made a payment. That call is completely removed from my queue. Get it out of my way. I want to focus on what I need to do. Everything is scheduled in a work queue for me, and it can be prioritized. So I start at the top and work my way down. And here's the best part. Everything's centralized. I don't need to go back in my accounting system. I don't need to go into CRM to get a contact. I don't need to go in my personal inbox to look for emails. All that information is in one place. That includes customer financials, communication history, as well as their account information. This is a brand new peek into the latest version of Anytime Collect. For those of you who've seen it before, we used to have an Actions tab. We've now put these squarely right on the home page. And so I can, when I log in, this is where I go. I can see customers that have a broken promise, follow-ups due today, follow-ups that are past due, issues that don't have any activities against them. I can see customer messages from the portal, mail that's been received but isn't read. Look at my customer actions. I have one customer that's due for a fourth collection call. I've got two high-risk customers that have a late balance. I have 3 customers that require a third collection call, and down through the list. Okay? Click on those tiles, and it's going to bring you to your task list for each of those different types of things that are automatically created and scheduled for you. This is a view of the detail that we provide within the software. So when we drill in and we're creating a communication that's telling us to do, make a phone call or what have you, I can come in here, and for my supply, I can see the full statement of accounts, all of their cash receipts or their payments, their invoices, open credit memos, etc. at the top of the screen. Full history of their communication below that, sort of like a CRM view. And if I click on a little drop-down arrow right here, I can always get information about their credit, general info on the account, where they located, sales reps, history, how many times they've broken promises to pay or had disputes, contacts, transactions, and even credit scoring information. All that right here on one screen. Let's talk a little bit about automated task prioritization. So it's a little different, right? So the tasks are created, but how do I know what I need to do? Most companies, again, getting back to that pay stream study, we're spending about 15% of their time just figuring out, well, I really should call that company before that company. We can take all that down to about 6% of your time trying to prioritize. What does that look like? All right, if 15% of my given day is spent prioritizing what I'm going to do for the day, that equates to about an hour and 12 minutes every day. That's in a manual process, no automation. Take that down to automated, 6% of my day equates to about 29 minutes every day. Now let's quantify that a little bit. That's an annual savings about 4.5 weeks for every full-time employee you have managing accounts receivable. According to salary.com, the median income for an AR clerk is about $36,666, to be exact. Do the math on 4.5 weeks of their time, you're saving $3,200 every single year just by having your tasks prioritized. And that's for every single person you have in your credit collection department. So that can add up pretty quick. I wanted to give you a little proof here. This isn't just us talking. This isn't just some analyst doing some study. This is from one of our customers. Anytime Collect allows us to spend much more time calling customers for payments rather than sorting through a 200-page report to figure out who we need to call next, right? Prioritization. We are much more efficient because accounts are prioritized based on criteria that we've configured in the system. That's great, right? Great testimonial. What are the results? What's the black and white of all of this? Within months, they were able to reduce their DSO by 26%. They're getting paid 26% faster. They reduced their past due invoices by 88%. And oh, by the way, they achieved this with significant reductions in AR staffing costs. Pretty compelling. Let's talk a little bit about the automated task assignment. Okay, so we have 3 parts of this. We're creating the task, we're prioritizing the task, and now we're going to assign it to somebody to do. What are the things we can do? Assign it to somebody. We looked at the rules, who's a go-to, who's assigned to that account, or if it's escalated, who are we escalating it to within the system. We can also share tasks, and we touched on this a little bit earlier. If I'm only managing the top 20% of all accounts, I've got 80% of all others that out there that maybe require a phone call. We can set up teams in the software. So if I have 2-3 people that are managing AR, they each have maybe 20, 30 customers assigned to them, but then we work collectively on the small mom and pops. Clear responsibility into who owns the task. This is huge. Did George call them, or was I supposed to call them? And maybe Sally called them. Did we give that one to legal? That's all gone. Whoever owns the task owns the task. If they don't want the task, they have to reassign it to somebody else. Automatic reminders and a calendar view, right? So it's much like Outlook. It's going to pop up and say, these are the people you need to call you didn't call. These are the emails that you need to send. These are the emails you didn't send. And it's all prioritized for you. You can have alerts and management reports go back and tell the CFO that, your AR clerk just didn't get the job done that day. They didn't make many calls. These are all the late calls that they still need to get to. Maybe it's not their fault. Maybe they had a problem with the phone. Maybe they have some very difficult customers they're working with. So maybe, an indication you need to ramp up staff or offer them some overtime or look at automating other pieces of the puzzle to free them up to spend more time making calls. Days to complete. With any of the tasks in the system, you can give that person that you're assigning it to a number of days to complete it before it shows up as late. So I might want to give them 5 business days or 3 business days, depending on the urgency. And we can also map that against my days available calendar. So if we have holidays and weekends, we can back them out from that calculation, right? So I give them 5 days, and we had, time off on Saturday and Sunday, and Monday happens to be the 4th of July. Well, then I'm only really giving them 2 days to complete that, and that really isn't fair. Last but not least, here we can assign tasks not only based on those criteria, but also on the type of task that it is. So it happens to be a dispute or even a particular type of dispute or a large past due, and I can have those moved into other people's queues so that they can work in areas that maybe they have a little bit more expertise or a little bit more success. This is one example of one of the queues that are created for you. This one is past dues 1 to 10 days, and it's prioritized based on total aging here. You can see it going in descending order. So you come in, click on the communicate button for Stein Services, and you make your call. Log your notes, close it, done. Come off the list. Go in, create a communication for Tate Distribution, same thing. Cohen, Durham, Barrera, and hopefully at the end of the day you knock out all of these calls, and then you move on to your next one, which is probably past due 11 to 20 days. Okay, pretty easy. This is an example of the communication screen. We can do a lot of different things on here. You can see our call notes over here on the left. We mark that we spoke to the customer as opposed to getting a voicemail or leaving a message. We set a follow-up here. We want to make sure we call them back on Thursday. It's their birthday. Over here on the right, you can see we have the invoices that we talked to them about. We tag them to this credit issue. We can manage disputes by reason code. We can drill in on the original PDF copies of the invoices. We can send an email. We can create attachments. And we can log expected payments, all from this one screen here. And we also have documents integrated. We'll talk about that later in the webinar series. The documents at the customer account level, maybe credit reports, requests for credit, trade references, and we also have supporting documents at the invoice level, things like maybe a bill of lading, timesheet, maybe their purchase order, something like that. Last but not least for today, automated customer self-service. So let's talk about the benefits of this. Shortens the order-to-cash process. If you think about it, by the time I create the invoice internally, maybe I only print my invoices in a batch once a week. I then have to print them, stuff them in envelopes, sits there for a couple of days, maybe get it to the post office, it sits there for a day. They have to deliver it to the customer. It takes a couple of days to get there. Once it gets to their business, then it's got to find its way to their desk. Then they actually have to open the envelope. They have to look at the invoice. They have to review the invoice, maybe scan it, send it to somebody else to actually process payment. They have to then put it into a batch. They have to print the checks, put it in an envelope, mail it back to you. A couple days in the mail. You get the check. You open it up. You enter the cash receipt and post the payment. That's a lot, and that's all manual. Online bill pay, we send them an email. It says, click here to pay your bill now. They click the link, go online, select the invoice that you want to pay it via credit card, you're done. You are literally shrinking that process from weeks to months in a manual process to days or hours. They literally could pay the same day that they get the notice. It simplifies the process for you. More importantly, it simplifies the process for your customers. They don't have all of that work to do on their end. They go online, they pay you, they're done. They have access to their invoices online with all the supporting documents they need. Value proposition. This is just stupid. You're going to save an absolute bare minimum of 1 hour every year letting your customers pay you online. Okay? 1,000 active customers, that's 19 hours every week that you're saving. That's a lot. Now, mailing our invoices and statements and manually entering checks, that's got to cost us a minimum of $4 each. If I'm doing 1,000 invoices, that's $4,000. And postage alone isn't cheap these days. Paper's not cheap. Toner certainly isn't cheap. That's 1,000 invoices. A lot of companies that we deal with, they're doing hundreds of thousands of invoices every year. So it adds up pretty quick. Just an example of what the customer portal looks like. They click the link, or this is their online statement. You can go in there as a collector, by account, look at the invoices, select which ones you want to pay. It'll add them up here. You support multiple currencies. Click Make a Payment. And we integrate to a couple different payment providers, one being Sage Payments. We also have a provider SoluPay, they're a big First Data partner, and First Data does about 80% of all credit card transactions in the world, so a pretty good partner for us. But fill out the credit card information, process the payment, and boom, they're done. You just got paid. So that is the topic of today. I just want to point out a couple additional resources for you. We do have a resource guide on the product. Includes links to recorded product demonstrations, white papers, more case studies, got some educational webinars, things like we're doing today, but on different topics, and just a kind of whole boatload of other resources out there. And you can download that if you go to the website. You'll find a resource page, but there's the shortcut to it there. Reminder that the next topic will be customer communications. We'll be doing that July 19th, and these are the topics we'll be covering there. So please register for those topics on that date. And we are done. I'm going to turn it back over to Adrian to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Jim. Great presentation, as always. We do have a few questions here. I'm a Sage 100 user. What does it take to get this implemented?
That's a great question. So we have different editions of the product, and with Sage 100, most companies are implementing either our brand new Express edition or our standard edition. And to keep it simple, there's different levels of complexity based on the editions. With our Express edition, everything's kind of pre-configured out of the box, and we can kind of show you what that looks like. The setup on that is pretty simple. We'll send you a survey. You fill the survey out. That includes, what your email templates look like, what your business process looks like, address, user information, etc. You send it back to us. We set up the system for you, and you're done. It's a $500 one-time setup fee, and you literally are up and running within a matter of days. Okay. If you have some different changes you want to make, depending on what those are, you may be a better candidate for the standard edition. Those implementations are typically between maybe 1 to 2 days on the short end, up to 3 days of work on the higher end. So it will vary. Contact us if you're interested, and we can talk a little bit more about your specific needs there.
And we have another question. What different accounting systems does this work with?
Yeah, I didn't mention that, did I? So out of the box, we maintain integrations to the following. Intuit QuickBooks Online and Desktop, Sage 50, the former Peachtree product, Sage 100, Mass 9200, Sage 300 being ACPAC, Sage 500 being the Mass 500 product. We also integrate on the Microsoft side to Dynamics GP, the former Great Plains product. We have a private label with Epicor for Epicor ERP, formerly Vantage, where they sell it as Epicor Cash Collect. And then any other system that's out there, we integrate with one of two ways. We either have a generic CSV file interface, so if you can get the data out into CSV, we can integrate that way. We also have a new way with SQL views, so if you can get the data out into a SQL view, we can integrate directly there. We have customers, and probably half of our customers are on kind of those other ERPs. We have customers using Infor products, Sightline, NX Trend, the SX Enterprise product. We have customers on Macola, SAP, Oracle, a whole slew of other systems using that kind of generic interface.
And we have one more question here. We are on Intuit QuickBooks, and we use the Intuit Bill Pay service. Would this replace that? And is there any cost savings associated with your credit card processing provider?
That's a great question as well. I'm not as familiar with the Intuit Merchant Services, but from what I've heard, the rates that they charge are a little bit higher than the company that we typically work with, which is SoluPay. We really won't know until we actually look at the credit card statements. So I would say contact us. We'll put you in contact with the provider that we work with and see what kind of cost savings that we can have for you. In most cases, I'll tell you, I'd say 99% of the time, they're able to save QuickBooks users a little bit of cash on those finance charges. So give us a call. You'll probably talk with Adam Lynch here at our organization, and my guess would be maybe Brendan Hickey over at SolUpay.
And I'm not seeing any more questions yet. I just want to remind the audience that if you do have a question, we'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and click on that question mark button right next to your name on the webinar pane. A dialog box will open up where you can key in your question, and we will read that question out for Jim. And I'm not seeing any questions at this time, so we'll just hang around here for about 30. Oh, I see a question popping up, another one. Is online payment restricted to credit cards? Do you offer ACH? Thank you, Gene.
Yep, and that's a good question. We do offer both. So we do that through SolUpay or through Sage Payments. And you can also put restrictions on that so that maybe I don't want to allow any credit card payments that are over a certain amount because of the fees associated, right? Because ACH is significantly lower. So maybe anything over $10,000, I'm going to force them to do an ACH. So that is a great question. We do support both methods.
And so, Jim, just so for clarification for me, would your credit card processing add-on replace Intuit Bill Pay across QuickBooks for the QuickBooks customer?
It would. I mean, really for the online payments. Now, I don't know the integration into QuickBooks. I'm thinking that they may be able to take payments from within Intuit itself. And in that case, we wouldn't have that integration. This would be more on, I've sent the invoice out and they want to pay online. But if I'm actually processing payments, maybe like in a retail environment, that'd be something you wouldn't be able to do with ours per se. Now, SolUpay, I believe, does offer some services there with QuickBooks specifically. So again, that's something we probably need to talk about a little bit. But for the most part, I think you probably could get by with our solution and probably save quite a bit of money.
Well, I just want to thank the audience one more time for spending this time with us. It looks like we are 15 minutes before the hour. So thank you, Jim, for another excellent presentation. Would you like to offer any closing remarks? No,
I think the thing I want to point out is that the goal of this webinar series is to highlight automation, right? We invest a lot in software these days, and we're not buying software just to buy software. It's kind of intangible. We buy software because we want the value that it provides. We do this with a Sage 100, with a QuickBooks, because it's easier, it's faster, it's a better way to manage our business. We buy CRM software to better manage sales and marketing. We buy HR software to better manage our employees. But up until just recently, most companies didn't have an option to better manage their accounts receivable. And that's what our goal is with Anytime Collect, is to come up with a better way. And I am never in my life been more excited to be associated with a product. Our latest release of the product is just absolutely phenomenal. I think just this week we had 5-6 customers call and ask for more users because they're getting a lot more value out of the software. So, we're not going to hardcore press you, but if this sounds like something that's of interest to you, call us up, take a look. We'll help you build an ROI case for it. And if we can't, then, no harm, no foul. But we literally have customers that are getting an ROI in a matter of months. It doesn't take much when you really add everything up. So I just encourage everybody, you attend a webinar, you go away, you're all excited, and then you don't do anything about it. Don't let this be the case. Give us a call and let us show you what we can do for you.
And I will be sending a follow-up email with Jim's contact information and a copy of the recording, and Jim has offered his slides, so that will also be included in the follow-up email. And I just want to wish everybody a happy 4th and enjoy the long weekend and beat the heat. Thank you so much, Jim.
Excellent. Thank you, Adrian, ERP VAR, and everybody for joining.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.